Hey, this is Mr. Keel from Virtual Startup Academy. Today we're going to talk about cutting tests as a tool for measuring learning. So, I've been on this train for a long time. I'm not a fan of tests. I'm not a fan of quizzes. I understand that we need formative assessments. I understand we need summative assessments. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be a multiple choice question. It doesn't have to be an essay. It doesn't have to be a true false question. So, tests are a tool that administrators use to come up with data to try to make the world, their school, a better place. I get it. But how many of us are honestly bought into the standardized testing model? Is there anybody out there who thinks that standardized testing is the end all be all? I don't think so. So, how do we measure learning in a virtual startup academy classroom? It's pretty simple. We observe it. We watch the magic happen and we make our own subjective decisions. Because the magic is going to happen in your classroom. That is a fact. We don't need to take a 50 question test to figure out whether or not your student is able to work in a team. We're going to be able to see it every day. The students are going to give feedback on each other. We're going to get that kind of feedback. So, the whole model of using tests to measure what kids have learned, it doesn't really have a place in Virtual Startup Academy's program. What does have a place is getting kids to work together, getting kids to accomplish things that they could not do on their own. Or if they couldn't do it on their own, they couldn't do it as well. Virtual Startup Academy is about one thing: student engagement and the student experience. The students are going to experience the most awesome learning environment in the entire world inside of your classroom. I believe this to be true, and if you give me a couple weeks with this program, you're going to believe it too. And we're not going to do it with standardized tests. We're not going to do it with common formative assessments. You guys have those in your school with your PLC groups? My old school does. They didn't do anything to drive learning. What does drive learning is giving kids the opportunity to think for themselves, to work with each other and get excited about the content they're working with. That's what drives learning. When a student at the end of the semester comes up and delivers a flawless presentation with their classmates on a product that they created out of their brains, using tools that they figured out how to use themselves, that's learning. Because they can actually use that. I talk about on a recent podcast with Rachel Mann the fact that I've never gotten a multiple choice and true false test in the real world. And she thought about it for a minute. And she said, you know what? Neither have I. Because they don't exist. The problems in the real world are solved with critical thinking. You do not measure critical thinking by crossing out answers in a multiple choice question and then guessing and getting the right one. Not how it works in the real world. And I'm not here to try to change anybody's mind about any of this because I know what works in my classrooms and I know it's going to work in your classroom. And the process of learning being driven by the students themselves is what is going to change the world for you and change the world for them.